Hi everyone, welcome back to the Relax and Craft YouTube channel. My name's Fleur and today we're talking chainmail and we're talking about one of the most historic weaves that we know about, and it is the European 4-in-1. So European 4-in-1 weave is the most iconic and historically significant of the chainmail weaves. It dates back to at least the 3rd century BC and has been widely used across Europe, particularly by the Celts and the Romans and medieval knights. So we would know it more from looking at films about medieval knights. So if you've seen any sort of like historic medieval dramas, you probably see the knights with chainmail on, either full shirts of chainmail or just chainmail bits underneath their sheet armour. So there's a lot of history towards this weave, and as you can see, it is like a fabric. You can see why it was used as garments to protect, because it's made of metal but it has got the fluidity of a material. Now, we use it more now than we ever did used to use it in medieval times or in historic times. This little weave has so many uses now, from shark suits to chainsaw trousers. It's even inside some Kevlar bulletproof vests as well as things like chainsaw trousers, butcher's knives, that kind of thing. So it still has a protective value about it. But we can also use it for beautiful jewellery. And as you can see from the samples that I've got here, we can make it look completely different when we use different size jump rings. So all chainmail is constructed using small rings of metal that we call jump rings, and these are woven together into certain patterns to create chainmail weaves. So the European 4-in-1 is, as we can see, a beautiful flat weave. So it creates a lovely flat sort of like section to wear. This is a European 4-in-1 here that I'm wearing here, but as you can see, the one that's next to it is more of a rounder weave. So they do chainmail. There's hundreds of different chainmail weaves and they can make different forms, but this one is probably, I think it's probably my favourite because there's so much you can do with it. So if I just bring across this one here, so if I just move those out so it doesn't focus on them. So as you can see, this is our traditional European 4-in-1. I've done it in 2 different colours and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And this is created when we chainmail in long rows and then add a second row to add the depth. But if we take the same size rings and we chainmail it in a different direction, we get a completely different look. So you can see from one side, which is the traditional way that we would chainmail, and then this one looks completely different. And the only difference is we chainmail vertically rather than horizontally. So I'm going to show you both ways in this video as well. Now, as you can see from the sizes that we've got here, you can chainmail your European 4-in-1 in lots of different jump ring sizes and aspect ratios. So traditionally, the sort of like the cutoff really for a good sort of like European 4-in-1 is about 3.4, 3.5. You can do it in smaller, but it will become very tight. But you can go into quite large sizes of jump rings as well. So there's not really a maximum size of jump ring that you can sort of like make with this. It will just create a more airy weave, or you can see a looser weave, as opposed to a smaller jump ring which creates a tighter weave. So if I just hold those up, you can see the difference in sort of like how loose the weave is on the bottom and how tight the weave is at the top. So it depends on what project you're using it for. Obviously, the smaller the jump rings, the more you're going to use of them to create any length or any depth of a piece that you're making. So you can use different wire gauges as well. Obviously, that will create your different aspect ratio. But what I always say with chainmails, if you've got some jump rings in your stash, this is a great one to have a go at, because it doesn't really matter what size you've got unless they're teeny tiny jump rings. It doesn't matter what size you've got, it will work with this. So if you have got jump rings, give it a go. So this is all using one size jump ring, but we can use two different sizes of jump rings. So as you can see here, I've used two completely different gauges of jump ring. So I've got some very large jump rings. So in this case, these are a 4.5, the large jump rings are 4.5 on a 0.9 wire. And then I've used a 3mm on a 1mm wire for like the connecting rings. And you can see it creates a completely different look. So you've actually got like almost like ridges in this. And this is actually called snake skin. So although it's the same weave, when we use two different sizes, it does change the name of the weave. So this is called snake skin. But when we take those two different sizes, so this one would have been chain mailed horizontally, when we change it to vertically, we get a completely different look and a completely different fluidity to our pieces. So this one is a little bit more rigid, a little bit more form to it, and you can see it's actually quite rigid here. It's not got a lot of give in it, although it's still movable, so it's still perfect for a piece of jewellery. When we do it vertically, we get a completely different look to our piece, a really beautiful look. So if I just bring back the other vertical piece, you can see, ooh, they're that slinky, like they fall off your hand when you try to hold them. So this is all the same size, and this is two different sizes. The ones that I've used here for the same size, these are a 3.25 inner diameter on a 0.9 wire. So that's giving me a 3.6 aspect ratio. And again, it's a really nice, like I say, a really nice aspect ratio for dainty jewellery. You can also do things like make shapes with your European 4-in-1, and I've got a video on European 4-in-1 descending earrings, which I will pop a little card somewhere up here with that video, so you can watch that as well. So I think it's time that we actually got started making this weave. So let's grab our pliers and let's start chain mailing. So as with all chainmail, all we need are two pairs of flat, smooth-nosed pliers. So what we mean by that is the jaws on the inside of your pliers have to be completely flat and smooth. Now these pliers come in lots of different guises. You can get chain nose, you can get flat nose, you can get bent nose, you can get short nose, you can get chisel nose, lots and lots of different kinds of pliers. It doesn't matter what two you choose as long as they have both got flat, smooth jaws on the inside. So we can't use our round nose pliers for this. These are my Xeron pliers. So I have a chisel nose and a bent nose. I'll leave the links to these on my website down in the description below. If you're looking for a more general toolkit, then these two pairs of pliers come in my general jewellery maker starter kit, and again you can see we've got those smooth flat jaws. So that's all we need to get started with our chainmail. I am going to be demonstrating today with some very large rings, just so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So these are supersize rings, and I've got 3 different colours that you can see here. Now I will have some kits available for this weave on my website, and if you request in the comment section or in the customer notes section that you require some practice rings of different colours, I will add practice rings of 3 different colours in there for you. So when you've got them in the correct size, you can have a little practice and follow along with this tutorial with the colours, and then go into the colour of the actual piece that you're making. So if that's just plain silver or silver with the copper. So as the name suggests, European 4-in-1 means one jump ring holds 4 jump rings in place. Okay, so if we always remember that one jump ring holds 4 jump rings, then we know where we're going to be going. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit for you. So we're always going to, when we start with a foundation row, so we're going to be doing the traditional vertical to start with, so the one that creates this look. So we're going to create in vertical lines and then add rows to it. So for that weave, we're going to need a foundation row which is the same length as the project that you're going to be completing. So if that is a bracelet, then it's the length of your bracelet minus your clasp. If it's a necklace, it's your necklace length minus your clasp. So in the foundation row, we're going to use quite a lot of closed jump rings and only a few of our open jump rings. So you can go ahead and close some of your jump rings and leave some of them open. So I would suggest, well, as you can see, so for every one open, you're going to need 4 closed. For every one open, you're going to need 2 closed, because we add 2 in at a time. It's just the first one that we don't. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our open jump ring and I'm going to add in 4 jump rings. Okay, now if we were doing the 2 different size ones, this jump ring, the open jump ring, is always the small jump ring. Okay, so it's always a small jump ring, and the large jump rings are our closed jump rings. So I've got my 4 jump rings onto 1 open jump ring, and I'm going to close that up. Now if you don't know how to open and close jump rings, I will pop a little video here, a little card up here with how to open and close jump rings properly. So what I want to do now is I'm going to split the 4 into 2 pairs, and I'm going to lay this down on my table. Now I am right-handed, so I'm going to chainmail across to the right. This central jump ring here, the one in the middle, the one that was open, that held them all together, this is going to dictate which way I'm going. So if you're right-handed, this jump ring needs to face to the right. And when I say face to the right, I mean that the bottom of the jump ring is down on the table and it is sticking up ever so slightly. If I just hold it like so, you'll be able to see what I mean. So it's going to be sticking up and forward. Okay, so that's how it's going to sit in, like on the table, if you like. So it has to be sitting upwards and forwards. So the back of the jump ring is down, the front of the jump ring is slightly up. What we're then going to do is just pull forward the top jump ring from each pair. Okay, so we have our top jump rings sitting on top of our front jump ring sitting on top of our previous pair of jump rings, and the center jump ring pointing the way that we're going. Now if you're left-handed, this is just opposite. So if I just push that to the left, you can see now that the center jump ring is facing up and across to the left, and the 2 top jump rings are sitting on top of the 2 previous jump rings. So I'll just lift that up for you to look at again in this orientation. So they will sit like so on top, and this center jump ring is pointing up and towards the way that we're going. Okay, so always keep an eye on that. If you want to, you could add a pin to the first pair of jump rings when you get a few rows in. Now with most chainmail, the first few jump rings that you add in are always the trickiest because there's no pattern formed at all. But with this one, luckily, once you've got 2 rows in, then it holds its form and you're fine. So from now on, we can only ever add in 2 closed jump rings and 1 open jump ring. Now if you remember back what this name is, it's European 4-in-1, so 1 jump ring holds 4 in place. So if I can only add in 2 of my sort of like loose jump rings, I have to take 2 jump rings from my weave. So I'm going to take my open jump ring, and the red row is the row that's closest to me, and the black row is the one that's farthest away from me. So I'm going to take my open jump ring and I'm going to come down through the red jump ring which is closest to me. I'm then going to slide underneath and up through the black jump ring. So I'm just going to zoom in so you can really see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'll do that again for you. So take my open jump ring and I'm going to go down through the red jump ring. I'm then going to come up through the black jump ring. Now if I just lay that down, you can see that this jump ring now is sitting underneath the previous gold jump ring. So this was the previous open jump ring, so it's going to sit underneath. It naturally sits underneath. You don't have to do anything to it. It's as long as you go down through the one that's closest to you and up through the one that's farthest away from you, it will naturally sit underneath the previous center row. So I've got 2 jump rings in place, so I need to add my loose 2 to make it European 4-in-1. So take my black jump ring, I'm going to add that in, and the red jump ring. So where this gold jump ring is sitting underneath the previous gold jump ring, the black and red jump rings are going to sit on top of the previous jump rings in those colours. So open jump rings naturally sit underneath, closed jump rings are naturally going to sit on top in this foundation weave. And then I'm going to close that one up. Okay, so I've now got my first sort of like section done. I'm going to do another section. So take 1 black jump ring and 1 red jump ring. I'm going to take my open jump ring and again I'm going to come down through the red jump ring and up through the black jump ring. Now I know that that's correct because it's sitting underneath the previous gold jump ring. So if I just push them together, you can see it's sitting underneath the previous gold jump ring. It's only got 2 jump rings in place though at the minute, so I'm going to now take the red and the black jump ring and add them on, and they naturally are sitting on the top, and close. Now what if this little section of weave falls on the floor? So if it just falls on the floor and you're like, oh, I don't know which way it's going. If it's quite forgiving, this weave, you just have to try and remember sort of like that this center section, the center weave row has to go in the direction that you're chain mailing, and that your closed jump rings are sitting on top. So as long as you can see this formation, then you're fine. But if it does go the other way round, and you can see, if I just turn it to the left so that you can see it properly, let me just sort that one out so it's going in the correct direction. There we go. So if it was to fall on the floor, we can see now that our center line is actually facing the wrong way. It's facing to the left. But if I didn't notice that, and I took my gold jump ring and I went down and up, when I start to bring this, if I was to lift this off the table, it actually goes together as a pair. Okay, so we know that that's wrong because it's not holding its formation. Chainmail is all about pattern, and the pattern holds the formation. So you can see that the formation's now changed. It's not the same as what it was before. So we know that that's wrong. So if we just flip this back over and we do the same in the correct direction, so going left to right, go down through the red and up through the black. When I hold this up, can you see how it's actually now it's not gone together, it's holding its pattern. So it's holding the pattern that we want it to hold. So if it goes together as a pair, it's because your center line is facing the wrong way. Okay, so I'm just going to add in the red and the gold jump ring like so. Now once we get a little bit quicker at this weave, let me just zoom out just a little bit. Once we get a little bit quicker and we get a little bit more confident with this weave, we can actually take the jump rings and add them on before we actually weave them in, and we can then just go down and up through the red and the black, close, and then just turn the black jump ring over. So it's actually quicker to do it like that. But I would suggest that just for your first at least 10 sort of like centre jump rings in, add them in individually, because it's going to be so much easier for you to remember the pattern. So you're going to carry on going as long as you need for your piece. So if that's like a bracelet, say that's 7 inches, you're going to carry on going like this for about 7 inches, okay? Now if we want to make that weave have extra rows, so this looks beautiful just as it is by itself on this thin row, so just with the 3 rows. But if we want to actually make it deeper, we can add lots of rows underneath, so we can go as deep as we want. So you can see here we've got lots of rows of our chainmail here. So this started off as just the single row at the top, so if you like that, so that's what we've got at the minute. So we've got our 1, 2 and 3 third row. The rest of it we can then add in rows underneath. So to start to add the row underneath, so to make this weave wider, what we need to do is always remember, again, 1 open jump ring always holds 4 jump rings in place. Now the very start of this next row is slightly different to how we carry on doing the row. So we start with 2 closed jump rings and 1 open jump ring, and what we want to do is we want to take 2 of the jump rings from the row that's on the bottom. So I'm going to take my open jump ring and I'm just going to slide that jump ring underneath the first and underneath the second, and it's actually coming up between the eye of where those first 2 jump rings cross over. Now when we talk about the eye in chainmail, we talk about when 2 jump rings cross over, we can see this eye shape here. Okay, so this is the eye, it's like a marquee shape. So we have to go through the eye of where the first 2 jump rings cross over, but the easiest way to remember it is to go under the first jump ring and under the second jump ring. Okay, so that's now my first 2 jump rings in place, and I'm going to add on 2 closed jump rings. So I'm just going to add those on and close. Okay, so now we should be able to see that we've got the same sort of pattern starting to form now. Okay, so you can see it looks exactly the same as what it did at the top. Just gonna, with these extra large jump rings, it just, because it doesn't hold a tight formation in the pattern, I just need to spread it out so you can see. So this is the gold jump ring that we've just added in, and you can see it looks exactly the same. If we ignore everything else, it looks exactly the same as what we started with. Okay, so 1 jump ring holding 4 in place. From now on, we can only take 1 open jump ring, and we're going to take 3 jump rings from our weave. Okay, so the first move is exactly the same as what we've done before, but this time we've got a black row that's on the bottom, so we're going down through the black row and up through the red row. If I was to just place this loose black jump ring there, you can see that we've now got an opposite pair here. Okay, so our 4 jump rings that we need to add in are 1, the opposite to that is the red jump ring, and then the next jump ring across in the red row is 3, and the loose one is 4. So it's got, this is our opposite pair and these 2 are our opposite pair, and this 1 gold jump ring is going to hold those in place. Okay, so I'm going to go down through the black jump ring and up through the red jump ring. So that's 2 in place. Now I need to connect into the next one along to sort of like knit the weave together. So I'm going to just go into the next jump ring, so that's 3 in place, and you can see now where this the missing link is, the missing jump ring is, and we're going to place that one on, and that is our 4th jump ring, and we can close that one up. Okay, so I'm going to do that again for you. So I'm going to take an open jump ring and a closed jump ring. Let me just zoom right in so you can see exactly where these jump rings are going. So I've got my loose jump ring, which is number 4, but my first jump ring is 1 and 2, and then I need to knit it to the next jump ring along, so it goes through into the next jump ring, and then this is my 4th. So these are the 4 jump rings that this gold jump ring is going to hold in place. Like I say, 3 of them are already in the weave. This is just my 4th one. Okay, so taking my jump ring and I go down through the black, up through the red. So that's my first pair, that's the opposite pair. And then to knit it to the next one along, I now just go underneath and go through the eye of where they've crossed over, so you can see it's come up through this eye. But if we don't think about it as an eye, just think about it as going under the next one, but technically it's through the eye of jump rings, sort of like 1 and 2 in this section here. So you can always just cover up everything to see, you know, where the next one is. So you can see there I've got my 3 jump rings. I can now add my 4th jump ring in place and close. Okay, so I can do the next one. So my single jump ring, okay, and then adding in my open jump ring, down through the black, up through the red, and then along underneath the next red jump ring, and before I close, adding on the 4th jump ring to make it the European 4-in-1 and close. And then my last one is just here, and you can see there's only 3 jump rings left. There's only these 3 jump rings left here, so that's where I'm going to go next. So down through the bottom, up through the top, along to the very last red jump ring, and the next one in. So you would carry on going like that all the way along until you've got a piece of jewellery that looks like this. So that is using the method of going horizontally all the way along, making your foundation row as long as the piece of jewellery that you need it to be. Let's get you to focus. That's it. And then adding in this second row. Now you can add in subsequent rows after that. You can go as crazy as you want, you can go as wide as you want. It just is absolutely beautiful. If your aspect ratio is very, very small, so say it's like a 3, you won't be able to add these second rows. So adding the second rows, you're going to need that aspect ratio of about 3.5, 3.6 upwards to make that really nice fluid piece. So if we wanted to create the different look, so we can see it's completely different look how we create it, we just weave it slightly differently. So whereas we did our horizontal row for the length of this, we're going to do the width of our piece for this one. Okay, so I'm just going to dismantle all of this and I'll meet you back here when I've done that. So to create this vertical weave, instead of, like I said before, making the length of the initial weave horizontally, this time we start with the width of the weave. So we do as wide as we want our bracelet to be. Okay, and then we start to add rows exactly the same as before, and it will give you that completely different look. So nothing changes, the weave is exactly the same, it's just constructed differently. So if you think of it as the first way we construct in the horizontal, this way we construct in vertical rows coming down. So if we were to take an open jump ring, it's exactly the same. We start with going underneath the first 2 and then we add on our 2 loose jump rings and close, like so, and then we add on our next row. So again, you can, if you want to, you can add, let me just move that out of the way, you can add your loose jump ring onto there just to make it a little bit faster, but that's entirely up to you. And then we just put our last row in. So the rows are a lot shorter, obviously, but we're starting new rows every time. So that is the next row down. So if I start the next one, it's going to be a red row, so 2 red jump rings underneath the first 2 and close, and just spread them out, and then another open jump ring. So this is a great way of learning how to add extra rows. It's exactly the same, like I say, it's just constructed ever so slightly differently, as in the weave is exactly the same, we just construct it, just come at it in a different way. Now there's lots of other ways that you can construct your European 4-in-1 as well. You could have European 4-in-1 on the bias where it's on a diagonal line. So there's lots of other ways to make this. Or there's a weave called Oops, which is a like a staggered European 4-in-1, again made on vertical. So if you do like this weave, there is lots of weaves for you to sort of like investigate. So you can see how this one now is starting to come together, and it just gives a completely different look. Now I wear this one all the time, so this is on the vertical, and you can see it's just absolutely beautiful. It gives a more dense effect to your piece. You can see just from looking at this, it's a lot more denser. I'll just zoom out a little bit so I can get more of it in focus. I'll just put this last jump ring in so you can see and close. So exactly the same weave, just woven in a different way, and you can see how it then, this is the width, and we're going to create it vertically, whereas before it was horizontally, and then we just added another row. Now when we're finishing our pieces, there's lots of different ways that you can finish it. You can either use something like a 3-ring clasp at the end, so if you've got a clasp that's got 3 connections on the end, you could just attach these 3 in. You could take off your the last row and just have your 2 small two sort of like rings that hold it all together. You could take those off and just add these 2 in, or you could bring these 2 together and create more like a triangle, or pop a Mobius on the end. With the vertical weave, which I had somewhere, again you could, if you wanted to, like I have on here, take 1 large jump ring and just collect all the end jump rings up so it brings it to a point. That's always a really nice way. Or another way is to just add 1 single jump ring to the middle of your last row. So you can see I've not added my 2 loose jump rings here, I've just added my 1 single jump ring. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on how you can create different looking European 4-in-1 weaves, maybe with different size jump rings, or the orientation of how it's woven, either vertically or horizontally. Like I say, I do have some kits available on the website. They will be listed in the description below, along with all the tools and everything else. So thank you ever so much for watching, and if you have liked this video, please would you consider subscribing to the channel, hit the bell as well so that you get all the notifications and you never miss when I upload another tutorial or unboxing or a tool review. But thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you on the next Relax and Craft video. See you soon.